I grew up being told that there were beings that existed far above us. Beings with plans we couldn't comprehend, with power we couldn't measure, with a perspective on reality so far above ours that our entire lives, everything we'd ever done, everything we'd ever feared, meant almost nothing in the scale of what they saw. I grew up Christian, and the strangest thing happened when I spent 30 days going as deep as I could into Lovecraftian horror. It felt familiar. Not comforting, not safe. Familiar. Like I'd already been living inside a version of this idea my entire life, and nobody had told me that the horror genre had been secretly describing it for over a century. This is everything I found. The first mistake I made going into this was assuming that cosmic horror was about being afraid of something, a creature, a place, a sound in the dark. That's not it. H.P. Lovecraft wrote an essay in 1927 called Supernatural Horror in Literature. Most people skip it. You shouldn't. He opens with one sentence that reframes everything. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. Not fear of death, not fear of pain. Fear of what you cannot understand. That distinction matters more than people realize. When you're afraid of a killer, you can run. When you're afraid of a disease, you can treat it. When you're afraid of the dark, you can turn on a light. But what do you do when the thing you're facing isn't trying to kill you? It simply doesn't register that you exist. That's the first wall I hit. I went into Darkwood expecting a monster. What I found instead was an atmosphere that made me feel like the forest itself had rules. Ancient, incomprehensible rules that I had wandered into without an invitation and without a way out. There's no final boss that explains itself. There's no villain with a backstory. There's just a world that operates by logic you will never fully access. Cosmic horror isn't about what kills you. It's about what makes you realize how small the question is. I want to be specific here because this is the part that other videos skip. They tell you what cosmic horror is. They never tell you when it hits. For me, it was Alien. Not the action sequences, not the chess scene, though that's what everyone remembers. It was the moment I stopped looking at the xenomorph as a monster and started looking at it as a design. This creature is better than us in nearly every biological category. Faster, harder to kill, adapted to environments we can't survive. It bleeds acid. It hosts its offspring inside other living things. Its entire existence is structured around propagating itself with terrifying efficiency. We are prey. That's all we are to it. But here's what broke me. And I didn't have words for this until I went deeper into Lovecraft. The xenomorph has a creator. The engineers, these ancient, massive beings who seeded life across the galaxy, who designed the xenomorph as a weapon, who clearly operated on a timeline and scale of thinking that makes human civilization look like a Tuesday afternoon. So you have humanity, terrified of a creature that sees us as hosts. And above that creature, a species that sees both of us as what? An experiment? A resource? A mistake? And the question that follows, the one that actually kept me up, is how far does that chain go? That is a Lovecraftian question. Lovecraft called it cosmic indifference. The universe does not want to destroy you. The universe simply operates on a scale where your existence or non-existence is not a variable that registers. I'd heard a version of that idea before, in church actually. The difference between the Christian God and the Lovecraftian cosmos is not the scale, it's the relationship. One version says something infinitely large chose to know you anyway. The other says nothing infinite has ever noticed you existed. Both ideas are staggering. Only one of them is horror. need to tell you about the mistake I made with Silent Hill. I played it and I filed it away as psychological horror, trauma made manifest, a broken man's guilt given physical form. And that's true, that layer is absolutely real. But I filed it too early. What I missed, what most people miss, is what lives behind the town. Silent Hill is not just a place where your trauma becomes real. Silent Hill is a place that was chosen by something for a reason. There is a religion in Silent Hill, a cult that has been trying for generations to summon a god. Not a metaphor for a god, an actual entity. Something that exists in a layer of reality that overlaps with ours in this specific geographic location for reasons nobody alive fully understands. And the gods of Silent Hill don't behave the way gods are supposed to behave. They don't have commandments. They don't offer salvation. They experience the world through a lens of suffering and pleasure, so alien to human experience that communicating with them isn't really possible. You can only be affected by them. The moment I understood that, Silent Hill went from being a great psychological horror game to being one of the most Lovecraftian pieces of media I'd ever encountered. And the thing that made me understand it, the same thing that made me understand Lovecraft. My religious background gave me a framework for the idea that reality has layers, that there are beings who exist in dimensions above ours, that what we experience as the physical world might be the thinnest possible slice of something much, much larger. In Christianity, that idea is presented as good news. Angels and prophets and miracles, evidence of a reality above ours that is aware of us, that intervenes, that has a purpose for us. Silent Hill takes that same architecture, layered reality, non-human beings, a town that operates as a nexus point, and removes the good news entirely. What's left isn't atheism, it's something worse. It's a cosmos that still has gods. They just don't care about your prayers. This is the part I've been building toward. Everything else, the films, the games, the books, they were pointing at something, and I couldn't see it until I looked at all of them together, and then looked back at what I'd grown up believing. Here's the concept that actually restructured how I see reality. In Lovecraft's universe, there are beings called the Old Ones, ancient, incomprehensible, existing in dimensions that overlap with ours. They are not evil in any way humans can meaningfully use that word. Cthulhu doesn't hate them. Cthulhu doesn't even have a category in its cognition for what you are. You know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like a description of what we are to an ant colony. We walk past. We are not cruel to the ants. We do not go out of our way to destroy them. They have simply never occurred to us as something that requires our attention. Now here's where my faith collided with this idea in a way I wasn't prepared for. I grew up believing in prophecy, that prophets throughout history received information from outside of time, accurate predictions of events that hadn't happened yet. I grew up with a cosmology that included angels and spirits and an entire hierarchy of non-human consciousness that existed above and around human reality. And I was taught to believe, that at the top of that hierarchy was something that chose to know me, to see me, to assign meaning to my existence, despite the infinite scale of what it was. Cosmic horror doesn't dispute the hierarchy, it disputes the choice. It says, yes, there are layers of reality above you. Yes, there are beings of incomprehensible scale and age. Yes, you are extraordinarily small in a cosmos of extraordinary size. It just removes the part where any of that is for you. Iron Lung hit me this way. You're in a submarine, blind, in an ocean of blood, on a moon where something lives that has never considered whether you are afraid. It's not trying to kill you specifically. You are simply in a space that was never designed for you. following you through it because you are a disturbance in the water. That image, a being that notices you the way we notice a fly in a room, is the most terrifying thing Lovecraft ever invented. Not the tentacles, not the madness, the indifference. And what made it hit so differently for me than it would for someone raised without religious context is this. I had already spent my entire life trained to feel the weight of being known by something infinite. I understood what it felt like to believe in that relationship. Cosmic horror didn't have to teach me the scale. It just had to ask, what if you had the scale, but not the relationship? That question has no bottom.
Hazardous anomaly detected. Quarantine activated.
30 days in, here's where I landed. Cosmic horror is not anti-religious. It's not atheist propaganda. It's not trying to tell you that God doesn't exist. It's asking a different question. It's asking, what if the universe is exactly as vast and populated and ancient as your tradition says it is, and the thing that changes is not the scale, but the relationship? What if there are layers above us? What if there are beings we cannot comprehend? What if reality has rules we don't have access to, plans we're not part of, and a history so long that our entire species is a footnote in a footnote? What changes when you remove the part where it's for you? That's not a rhetorical question. I've been sitting with it because the honest answer is, I don't know yet. And I think that's the point. The prophets in the Bible saw things that were above human comprehension and came back changed. Some of them were terrified. Some of them fell on their faces. Some of them couldn't describe what they saw in any language that made full sense. That's not so different from what Lovecraft described when he wrote about the human mind encountering something beyond its scale. The difference is what meets you on the other side of the incomprehensible thing. Cosmic horror says, nothing is waiting. The scale is real and you are alone in it. Faith says, the scale is real and something chose to cross it anyway. 30 days in, I don't have a verdict, but I understand the question in a way I didn't before. And that's the most unsettling discovery of all. I want to know where you are with this. Not your theology, your horror. What was the first piece of cosmic horror? A game, a film, a book, a concept that made the scale feel real to you? Tell me in the comments. I'm going to read every one.